Hi kids, here's a quick troubleshooting tip for you. My neighbor called me up the other day and said, "Help, my car won't start, it's acting weird." I went over there and sure enough, it was acting weird. So the first thing I did was checked the voltage on the battery. And to do that, I've got a multimeter. And the multimeter, we need to set it to this 20 volt range because that's roughly the range that we're dealing with for a car. DC voltage, which is the dial with the line and the dotted line, that's DC voltage. We want to see how many volts, without trying to start the car, we have at the battery. All right, I currently have 12 volts. That's how many volts are required to start the car. So we should be good to start it. Now let's start the car and see how many volts we have after we start it. Red on red, black on black. We're showing 14 volts. That means our alternator is putting out electricity. So our alternator is working properly, and because we had 12 volts, our battery is holding voltage properly. So that helps you decide whether or not you're trying to replace the battery or the alternator. If your alternator is putting out 14 volts, even a little more. But if it's a lot more than that, then you have a problem with your voltage regulator. It should be somewhere in the 14 and a half volts. Your battery's gonna need to retain 12 volts to start your car. Sometimes it'll go lower than that. If your car's been sitting, you might get into the 11 or 10 volt range, and it may be a little slow to start. Your alternator produces voltage, and your battery stores it. Doing electrical work on your car can be a little bit intimidating, and this meter is a little more complicated than you really need. You can get a more simple meter that just checks 12 volts for auto work. But because battery and alternator failure is so common, I encourage you to learn how to troubleshoot that particular issue. It'll take a lot of guesswork out of people going on the internet going, my car won't start. Is it the battery or the alternator? Well, this will tell you in 2 seconds whether or not it's the battery or the alternator. Or something else, might be a connection issue, but that'll help you narrow it down, and now you'll know what you're looking at. And when you go to the mechanic and you need a battery for $100 and he instead tells you, oh, you need $500 worth of alternator replacement, you know whether or not he's snowing you. Make the mechanic take you out to the garage and show you that the alternator isn't putting out 14 volts. And I'll show you one other little quick thing I've done to my car. The Element does not have a voltage meter, so I installed one. This is a cheeseball little rig you can get off of eBay. I have a video on how I installed this, and it tells me what my alternator is putting out all the time. It also gives me 2 USB ports. So till next week, this is Clint Searcy saying like and subscribe.